Toronto Sun, Lily unleashed Carney's bad habit of not telling the truth. So let's see. Let's play a game. What do you think it's going to be about? Is it going to be about his investment firm, which there's some really interesting news that was it Brookfield? I think Brookfield was his investment firm. So not only that he approved the move of headquarters from Toronto to New York, right, which was still his doing, still his signatures on that. But look, Brookfield, hopefully I'm correct on the name. If I'm not, just write me in the comment that I'm a dumbass. Anyway, so in Canada, they were all for environment. Obviously, carbon tax and clean energy and everything kind of helped them get more money, since they were like environmentally cautious and investing in all of these environment programs. But now they moved to US and they bought the biggest pipeline in the US. How ridiculous it is? Or is it? How ridiculous is it? And obviously you can say, oh, Mark Carney is not in power right now. He's not a chairman or CEO or whatever. So it's not his decision. But don't tell me that the company will turn 180 within 3 months. And it's not like the whole board got replaced. It's just one person got replaced. Because obviously we're going to have haters in the comments saying, well, look at the US, President Trump, and everything changed, right? But President Trump changed the whole cabinet. It wasn't just one person getting the job and that's it, right? Mark Carney was literally the only one who stepped down, but the board and everyone who's making decisions still stayed there. So obviously it wasn't about the environment. Obviously it was, and I'm not going to blame them, right? It's investment firm. Obviously they're trying to make money. But it's just ridiculous how in Canada they're trying to pretend how they're environmentally cautious, and then in the US they just buy the pipeline. And it's even funnier to hear Mark Carney saying how he's not gonna revoke or repeal the bill C-69, which would allow us to create more pipelines, mines, and everything that would actually help Canada, right? Anyway, let's go. Let's see what's Mark Carney's bad habit.
Carney's bad habit of not telling the truth. Hi, I'm Brian Lilly, political columnist with the Toronto Sun. There he was at it again on Thursday. Canada's Prime Minister, Liberal leader seeking to be re-elected, Mark Carney. Well, actually, he's never been elected.
Yeah, he's
but
never
he wants
been
to be
elected.
Prime Minister again after the Liberal Party selected him. And he's responding to Donald Trump's tariffs on Thursday on Parliament Hill, trying to look all prime ministerial, and he's asked a very simple question. And rather than tell the truth, he decides to insert a little lie to try and boost his resume, to make him sound
is it going to be about
better.
his tax
He was
evasion?
asked simply, is the United States headed towards a recession? What does that mean for Canada?
Okay, no.
It is usually the case that when the United States has a recession, that it's very difficult for Canada to avoid something similar. There's been exceptions to that. With the financial crisis, 2008-9, when I was governor, we avoided a recession.
So in case you didn't catch it, let me tell you what the lie is there. He claims that, well, basically because of his work as Bank of Canada governor, Canada escaped a recession in 2008-2009. The problem is we didn't. We were in a recession for nearly a full year. Here's the news release put out by the Bank of Canada while he was governor on December 8th, 2008. And bad news for Mark Carney, there's video evidence of him speaking before the Finance Committee, talking about the very recession he now says didn't happen.
The global downturn and the declining demand for our exports will make this a very difficult year for Canada's economy. We're now in recession, with GDP projected to fall by 1.2% this year.
Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but this is also the same guy who, during the Liberal leadership debates, claimed that he was proud to have worked with Paul Martin to get rid of Canada's budget deficits, to balance the budget. But he never did. He was out of the country for the most part, while Paul Martin was balancing the budget between 1995 and 1998. He was not working at finance department until 2004, long after the budget had been balanced, 6 years later, and while Martin was prime minister, and he was only there for a bit while Martin was prime minister. And yet he claimed that. He also claimed to have nothing to do with moving Brookfield Asset Management's headquarters from Toronto to New York City. I mean, other than chairing the board meeting and writing the letter to all shareholders. He tried to claim he didn't make that decision. He had nothing to do with that. The man has a real problem, and this seems to be a character flaw. If we can't trust him with the small stuff, how can we trust him with the big stuff? Mark Carney needs to end his bad habit, and Canadians, quite frankly, shouldn't put up with it when they go to mark their X on their ballots on April 28th. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
I love this guy. He's always spot on. Well, obviously his bias a little bit, right? I mean, he's just giving you facts. So let's talk about it. I mean, there's pretty much nothing to talk about. He obviously lied in his interview or in his speech that there was no recession. And he said that it was his accomplishment, right? Which is not true. And let's talk about another thing. You know, so far we heard about vote Mark Carney because he has a good resume. If this is not proof that everyone lies on their resume, tell me what else is. You have 2 examples where he lied. And I bet you that on his resume or what he's presenting, he's lying. He's lying that it was his accomplishments. And regarding recession, obviously, if US goes to recession, it's going to affect the whole world. And us as a neighbors, definitely. But what do you think about those counter tariffs? About these retaliatory tariffs? That's not gonna help us, obviously. And like I said before, and like everyone said, everyone knows it's not gonna be good for Canadians, these retaliatory tariffs. And yet Liberals did it. And they did it at the same amount as Americans, right? So now, where are we gonna buy our goods? When we had huge trade ties with US, are we gonna buy our goods from Europe with great custom tax or import tax on it? Because like I said in one of my previous videos, in 2021 I ordered some stuff from Holland, some clothes, right? Paid 600 Canadian dollars just for the order for me and my family. It arrived here and I paid 300 on the import tax, which is ridiculous. So that's what you're telling us that we should do? To pay import tax, so pretty much Canada have money from that? So you're gonna take away the goods from US and you're gonna make us to pay import tax for the goods from Europe? I don't know. Obviously you need to have some retaliatory tariff. Don't take me as a naive guy, but you have to have a plan how to handle it further, and Liberals don't have the plan how to handle it. Anyway, that's a discussion for another video. In this case, like we saw, Mark Carney is obviously lying on his resume, and so I guess he's a good fit for the politician. So I guess you can't really argue with Pierre Poilievre is politician and Mark Carney is economist. He's proving to be just the prototype of a liberal politician.